Hi, my name is Nina Means. I'm the director for Austin Community College Fashion Incubator, and we are live here for Workshop Wednesdays. This is a time that we get a chance to talk with you about a topic that you've asked us to talk about. We did technical design this last summer, where we went through several weeks, really up to 12 weeks of content, unpacking for you what technical design is, how it fits into our industry, and how you may be interested in being a part of that. Working digitally during what we now know as, really key times for digital work. So the next area of interest that you guys shared with us that you really wanted to learn about was product development. So I think a lot of you are makers and understand, how to create your garment. So we're not going to really tell you how to design and be creative here. We are going to tell you a little bit more about the process of how designers come to a full collection. How do we get from a concept all the way to just before production, which is where we're making a ton of those pieces, or maybe not so many, maybe we're making them on demand. That's another conversation for another day that I'd love to talk to you about. However, what we're really focused on today is kind of reviewing what we discussed this last time on the product development cycle, what happens during that process, and then also going into a little bit more about just looking at our sample flow, kind of refreshing your memory on what we talked about last week about that. But today I really want to focus on the sketch review process and how we're evaluating our designs. So what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to take a particular style and kind of unpack all the details about that. What I'm going to tell you is how we decide what goes in to the assortment and what goes out. And it may surprise you, so stick around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And make sure that I am, all right, we've got our volume right. We're looking good here. So guys, if you recall, we went through the product development cycle together. So we went from concept to design. We talked about the sketch review meeting, what happens after the sketch review meeting when we're passing our initial tech pack to our technical design team, or if you work for yourself, that you're, now going into making sure that you have a good, clean tech pack to pass to your factory or to your team that's helping you out in your sample room. Then you go into the first prototype sample, where you get a chance to see what the outcome of your first tech pack actually is. So really the sketch review is genuinely that. It's just a sketch. And then we're going into, based on the sketches that we have, what do you want to spend time to develop a tech pack for? And then we actually pass those tech packs forward, and we're looking at the first proto review. Then at that first proto review meeting, we're trying to determine whether or not those samples fit the bill. Are they executed the way that we expected? Does the cost come back correctly? All of those things. And if the styling needs to be updated based on what was intended from the original design. Then once we get from the prototype evaluation, we look at whether or not we can improve that sample from a design perspective. And then we go into fittings before we go into the production life. So that's kind of an overview of what we discussed this last time. We're really going to be focused primarily on the design and sketch review meeting today. So I just wanted to kind of give you a heads up about that. Concept, if you guys had seen this, we actually talked about concept quite a bit when we actually initiated the technical design course. So if you want to go back to our previous YouTube channel, our previous YouTube videos on that, if you go to the technical design section, you'll see a really good talk on concept and understanding how to apply that to your work. So I would refer you back to that for concept, but today we're going to focus on design and the sketch review. So last week, I talked to you guys a bit about the development and sampling stage, as well as the production sampling stages. And so we basically had an overview about what all of these different samples meant, and what kinds of decisions needed to be made at each turn. So this is just something that I wanted to kind of refresh and remind you about, but definitely I think for you to get a better idea of this, you should just go back to the video from last week to get a bit more detail about how these work with our product development cycle. Today, however, what I'd really want to focus on is helping you understand really what happens during sketch review. This really is about whether you are working on whether you're working in a full collection where you have pants, jackets, shirts, knitwear, wovens, maybe you do dresses as well and jumpsuits, or maybe even some essential product where it's like camisoles and t-shirts and things like this. Regardless of what you're working on, your product is going to follow a similar model where you're going to have to really look at your product assortment. This is actually something that I learned when I worked for Excel Brands. When I went to design school, I had some idea of this, but not as much as whenever I actually went to go work for another company. So, I worked for American Eagle Outfitters, and whenever we designed for them, I was in such a specific silo. I think you guys remember me sharing this. Woven bottoms, soft material, pull on, very specific product. And they're like, okay, design us 100 styles in this very narrow window. And that was my job, as opposed to working with a smaller company where I may have been responsible for 5 or 6 categories, with the exception of 1 or 2. So going from American Eagle, kind of focused on just pants, in a very specific kind of pant, to going to Excel Brands, designing for Halston, and having to pretty much design the entire collection minus sweaters and maybe t-shirts. So pants, jackets, dresses, outerwear, all kinds of things. And so now my assortment and my expectations have changed in terms of what kinds of product I'm working with, what kind of materials I'm working with. But guys, regardless of whether I'm just doing one kind of product or multiple kinds of products, this still applies. So that's why I want to focus on this as kind of your product assortment for Sketch Review. And this is really something that I think I learned best when I was actually at Excel Brands. I think I was doing it at American Eagle Outfitters, but I think it was unpacked better for me when I worked for Excel Brands. And I'll tell you why. It was because I actually had to present our sketches as a team, to our president of design. And he'd come from like Dolce & Gabbana and had done, was an account manager with Calvin Klein. And so he had a very specific, it was Joe Falco. So Joe, if you're watching, but yeah, Joe Falco was always very stickler about us understanding where in the sales structure our designs were fitting into. So it wasn't just enough that you had a very interesting design, a saleable design, but that product fit into a very specific reason for living, for existing in your overall business model. So that's something that really stuck with me. And one of the ways that we had talked about this is something that Joe kind of unpacked for me during a meeting, was this pyramid. And so this is my pictorial, that I made, but this is basically kind of a Cliff Notes version of what Joe and I talked about regarding product assortment. And these percentages and sizes of the pyramid will change. But I kind of want to go over this with you because this really helps you to, imagine where in the space of your design and creation these things actually fit. So the base of our pyramid is something that we call the core. So what is the core? The core is really where your basic product lives. It typically is the product that's your, maybe it's simple, maybe it doesn't have as many bells and whistles. It may be what we call like an opening price point product, where it's really that place where people who are discovering you for the first time are maybe trying your product for the first time. Sometimes people will actually invert this pyramid as a funnel. But really the bottom of this pyramid is really where we're talking about where's the volume of your product going. So is it that pair of pants that fits like, a pair of sweatpants that people just absolutely love to buy from you and they keep buying it over and over again? Or maybe it's a basic button down shirt that doesn't really have a lot of extra frills on it, but it's something that you love and something that your customer loves to buy from you. Or maybe it's, a t-shirt. And really, guys, at any stage, this could really be your t-shirt. This could be an entire t-shirt line from core all the way to halo. So I'll go over what each section means. But really the core is really where, it's really the place where your customer is working probably the most in like replenishment. And that just means, what are the things that your customer is probably going to buy from you again and again? without really thinking too hard about it. If you're a denim company and there's a particular fit that your customer loves from you, they'll probably just keep replenishing that particular style at the core level, most likely. If you're a t-shirt company, it may be just that white t-shirt that someone just can't live without, or that gray heather t-shirt that's just got that perfect V cut or that perfect sleeve length, or it has the perfect, body length that tucks into their jeans just the way they like it. So those are things that would happen really at the core level. And so in my sketch review, I'm looking for things that are fulfilling that role in the collection. So if I walk into sketch review and I have, if it's a 25 sketches and I'm looking at 40 of them at the halo point, and I really need, and I only have, sorry, that doesn't even make sense. If I had, if I'm looking at 25 sketches and 20 of them follow, in the halo section, already I can tell that the volume is out of proportion. It's not where it's supposed to be. So really what I'm looking for is like, what's really taking up my core? It's not necessarily, it will not always be based on how many styles there are. It will also have to do with how much volume of sales is happening in that space. So I have to make sure that my core is covered. I may still only have, a handful of styles in my core business, but I have to also know that the core of my sales and my volume is intended for that space. And so my core has to be designed really, really well. Kind of maybe contrary to understanding, my core has to be designed exceptionally well to make sure that I protect the base of my collection. And that may be a bit challenging to understand if you haven't lived it. But whenever you go into a sketch review, if the core is not covered, a lot of times your business will topple, or it won't do as well because you don't have a particular space where you can get a good profit margin. So I don't want to overcomplicate it. There's a lot more behind that, and we can talk about that more. But in terms of your design, what you want to make sure is that you've covered these areas. So core is going to be your basic product. Core fashion. Sorry for the jargon if that was a little too heady, but definitely drop me a note in the chat, or actually send me an email if some of this gets a bit too, if it's beyond what you feel like you need to know here. We want to make sure that we give you good content, and there's so much to share with you about this. And so we want to make sure that we speak to it appropriately for where you are. Definitely not watering it down, but we just want to make sure that you get the right content. So the core is, again, it's going to be your basic. The first time people see you, what are they going to replenish in their closet, that kind of thing. In terms of core fashion, this is really where you give them a little something extra. Maybe this is a special color that's only for a particular season. Or maybe this is a new fabrication that you're trying out in a style that works already. So a really good example of this is when I was designing for American Eagle Outfitters, our core body, our core style that was doing really well at the time was a jegging. So you guys know skinny jeans have been around for a really long time. I think we're starting to get over it. I'm seeing some shift towards straight legs and, a little bit more relaxed bodies and whatnot. But jegging, you guys know jeggings have been in and around for a very long time, and people really love that as a pant style. But what we would do is we take, hey, jeggings are doing awesome, but what can we do to make it a little extra, little something special on top of it? So in the core fashion space, we may offer that jegging in a color that's different than your typical indigo. It may be a slightly different wash or a different finish, or maybe it had like a little bit of rip and repair or some destroy pattern, where you get the holes that we've carefully placed just for you. So the core fashion was like, take the basic and then just add a little something extra. Maybe it's a cool knee slit, or maybe there's a little bit of grinding on the pocket, instead of just a clean jegging. So this is really where core fashion is saying, okay, you know what? There's a girl who just wants a skinny black jean, high waist, cropped length. And then there's the girl who wants like the kind of washed down high waist black denim, with the cool knee hole slits, So that core fashion is like just a little bit of something extra that makes that style just a little bit more engaging, a little bit more interesting, a little bit more fashion, a little bit more trendy. Now, whenever we talk about fashion, this is when we have really just said, we're not just adding a knee slit anymore. We're actually going to change the way that the style looks and feels. Maybe we change the fabrication. Maybe we try like a leather detail. Maybe we try some cool seam work. Where, I remember I designed a pair of, it was basically like a skinny carpenter pant. So you really just have, a lot of like top stitching and details and some interesting utility details that have been added to a body that we already know, added to a style that we already know works really well for us. But we went in and we changed all the seams. We changed all the details on the inside of the pant. So it really, it fit like something she knew or she recognized, the customer recognized from us. But the styling was really different. It came in an olive green. It looked like a really cool utility pant. It had some really cool seam details over the knee. And it had maybe like a little bit different detail on the waistband. And so this is really our fashion pant now, because now it's got a little bit of something extra that makes it really exciting, for the customer to wear. Sorry, I've got a little person. Hi. So that's something where in the fashion space where you may really say, hey, this is that extra wow moment. And that's something that we kind of describe, here kind of as a part of this product assortment pyramid. Something that I want to make sure to capture in my sketch review. And then the last section, the last one that you see there is called Halo. And for some people will say fashion is Halo. I think Halo is Halo. A lot of times Halo is that wow moment that gets people in the door over something that they're like, I didn't know that was possible. That's my customer surprise, or something that's just my wow of the season that gets people excited about shopping. That's my window. That's my store window. Something that I've, wanted people to get, kind of entranced by from the front door. But then, hold on just a second. Jonathan? So yeah, so sorry about that. I have a 2-year-old, so I've got to make sure he's safe. So one of the things that we do at the Halo space is to make sure that we are, creating something that's really special. I like to call this one like the cherry on top of the sundae. So you got good ice cream, you've got maybe some good whipped cream, some chocolate sauce, or whatever you love, nuts, whatever you like to put on top. But then that halo is that shiny cherry that sits right on top of your sundae. And that's something that is, really kind of gets everyone like, ooh, let me come check you out. Let me come see what this brand is all about. It's really what's the landing page on the website. And then we spend time looking for where is that style whenever we go through the website itself, right? So this is something, maybe it's a unique color, maybe novelty fabric. So maybe it's got sequins, maybe you're trying a vegan leather or pineapple leather. Maybe you're trying a new, design detail or something that's really trend heavy, something that is probably only going to be here for this season. It's really something that is maybe a bit more out of the box. You probably had to develop it from scratch for that season. So the halo piece is really that kind of wow, shiny moment. The reason why we have it kind of set up here in your sketch review as a pyramid, though, is that like really you have to kind of think about who's doing the hard lifting in your assortment and why does it exist. And so, we kind of think about it in terms of profit margin from the core all the way up to the halo. So if you look at the base, I should really be seeing a lot more of my profit margin and volume come from down here. And then as I go up my pyramid, I should see a bit that may trail off. Now, if I get really lucky and get a really great profit margin on my halo piece, no one's complaining, okay? No one's upset about that. However, what typically happens is that your halo piece has a tighter profit margin because of the development it took, because of the uniqueness of the fabric, because of the uniqueness of the silhouette, and because it may not be here for a very long time. So all of those things will contribute to things that will eat into your profit. If you make an entire collection of halo, you probably aren't making a lot of money. and you may not be making a lot of money for your company unless they are geared towards a very specific delivery, which means that they probably negotiated other rates to help deal with their profit issue at this halo point. But most businesses are not going to do that. Most businesses are going to make sure they've got really kind of that core business at the bottom that's really sustaining all of these other activities that come above it. So I remember when I was designing at American Eagle, there's this khaki pant that as a designer, you just got tired of seeing. Let me just tell you, like, I didn't want to see another khaki pant. Came in a boot cut. It came in a variety of shades of sand. Trust me, there are a ton of shades of khaki, more than you'd like to know. But all we wanted to do was to walk away from this pant, but we couldn't because this pant paid our salary. This pant took care of the entire company. And so we sold this pant to, people who worked at Applebee's. We sold this pant to people who worked at Best Buy. We sold this pant to kids who go to, day schools and to boarding schools and uniform schools. It was like the perfect uniform pant. And this pant paid the bills. And so in our core business, you could only make very, very, very small tweaks to this pant maybe once a year. That pant couldn't withstand very huge changes because it served a purpose for our customer. And so that's something where you want to think about, how does this product serve a purpose for my customer? And it should be something that really you should be able to continue to replenish season after season, and to be able to have a reason for it existing in your collection. That core fashion now is whenever I take that khaki pant, I dip it in olive. And it's like, ooh, it's an olive khaki pant. It's a little something extra. It's a little more than we were expecting. Maybe now, it'll be cool enough to wear, outside of school, or something along these lines. So very small incremental changes, but they make a difference to your customer. So what I haven't gotten a chance to talk to you guys about is really how the dollars, we talked a little bit about profit, but this is also in terms of how your customer experiences it too. So why at the sketch review process am I talking about money so much? Well, guys, the sketches are not just because we think they're fun and pretty to make. The sketches happen because there's a business behind the reason for them existing. So at every end user from day one, after the concept, and we were like, oh, this is going to be an amazing concept. It's been informed by, what we have available, in terms of inventory. Maybe it's informed by, a variety of different things that we have in terms of street style and things that we've been observing in the world around us. Maybe we've noticed athleisure is really the way forward, and so we can't leave that out this season. So all of those things kind of going into your concept. Now you're sitting down to sketch. These sketches need to now have a reason for existing in your entire product assortment in your collection. So this is really why we talk about money up front. We really want to make sure that you guys get a chance to see how important that is at this stage before getting through making a tech pack for it. It's a lot of work. Every single style getting a tech pack, every style getting some form of prototyping sample, whether it's a 3D prototype at Gerber Technology, AccuMark 3D pattern design software, or whether it's something that you're actually having made with a factory just to see the samples. This is something really, really important for you guys to get a chance to see, or to get a chance to work through up front, because you're about to initiate a lot of work for someone or yourself if you don't get this part right. So the sketch review isn't just all fun and games the way that a lot of us like to think of it. Especially I did when I was in design school. I was like, "Ooh, sketch review!" You're just sketch. But before we even get through sketch review, there's a ton of things that don't even make the cut because it didn't fall into one of the buckets that we've just talked about. It doesn't have a reason for existing in the collection. It doesn't meet a price point specification. So like if I know that, let's just say I'm a t-shirt business, and maybe my core t-shirt is just a really good white V-neck t-shirt, or maybe you're a crew neck person. That white t-shirt does really good business because it's a little boxier than normal. It's got a really cool sleeve shape, and the length of it's perfect for the rise of my pants that I like to wear. 4. But now, for some reason, cobalt is doing really well, and I really need to make sure to register that shade of blue in my collection. And so now I'm adding in, another color that's actually really special in my core fashion. It's a fashion color. It's not something that will always be around. It's just something unique, but it's going to cost a little bit more because it's something that's not in my normal offering. Now, when it's fashion, I may actually add some additional details. Maybe I'm going to add a cool wash to it. Have you guys seen these like cool acid wash or tie dye shirts? Those are definitely fashion. Those are really cool fashion pieces. And so, those are whenever that price point now goes up because now someone had to tie dye that shirt. There had to be some wash that was, added to it to make it look and feel the way that it does. And then maybe for a halo, maybe I'm introducing a new material. Maybe it's a leather t-shirt. Have you guys seen these leather t-shirts? They're kind of cool. Or maybe it's got a cool metal tab that's been added to it, or a special detail, or an embroidery. Now we're talking halo. So I've kind of walked you through what it looked like, from a pants perspective, from a t-shirt perspective, but at each stage, I'm adding cost, I'm adding manipulation, I'm adding labor to execute this style. And so it may still be on a similar base style, like it still has a similar cut and feel, but now I'm adding cost. And so this is really something in the sketch review process where you're going to really be looking at not just what you designed, but how it fits into the larger story. And so when I teach this kind of course, a lot of people are like, hey, I thought I was going to be making pictures. And, it's like, yeah, we are. But I need you to understand where those pictures fit in so then you bring the right things. Because I can't tell you how frustrating it is as an assistant designer. I'm actually going to go ahead and close this out. I think we've gotten some good visuals. So I can't tell you how frustrating it is as an assistant designer or, starting out designer. And you show up to sketch review with all of your amazing, beautiful designs, and they all get dropped. And you're like, why did all of my ideas get dropped? And a lot of times it's because you didn't understand that it fit into a structure, that there was a reason for them to all exist. And it's not uncommon for brand new designers to start working for a company and literally all their ideas get slashed. And that designer goes home feeling really frustrated because they're not sure why they weren't able to get any of their pieces into the collection for that season. So the way you get paid and the way you show value is understanding that your product belongs somewhere in the collection and you understand why. So if you're able to speak to these buckets, as I call them, core fashion, and halo, it helps other people understand where your designs fit. It helps you understand where your designs fit and how much that has to cost. And so if you're designing a core style with studs and rips and wash and all this stuff, it's like, it's not core. And I've got my little one. It's not core. It's something that is going to cost the company and it's going to cost you quite a lot to make. So if you're thinking that that's your base, it may not be your base. Your base may be something else. And so that's something that we would definitely want you guys to kind of understand. It's that it's about finding ways for you to create value, whether you're working for yourself or for another company. Understanding at the sketch review process is really where you get in. And so if you can't clear sketch review, there are a lot more gauntlets during the product development process where your style could get dropped. And so what I want to do is to help you land product that sells. And the way to get it to sell is to get it through product development. So this is our first step, sketch review. And, the more we unpack this and help you understand this, the better it will be. So guys, thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Nina Means. This is Jonathan Means, the director for Austin Community College Fashion Incubator, working from home. And we are really, I'm actually really happy to get a chance to talk with you about product development because this is probably the most misunderstood part of our business. And, people don't understand what it is that we're doing and why we're doing it. And so we want to make sure that you guys have a strong base of information to work from so that it helps you create value and know what to speak to in the digital space. There's going to be people who are like, hey, I'm looking for a designer. Oh, hey, I'm trying to get, can someone freelance and help me out with this? But you may not understand their business well enough to be able to design effectively into what they need. And so what we're trying to do in this space is to help you think through what's possible, and how you can show your value in these spaces. So this is a huge point. And the more you can explain this to people, the more you can speak to these needs. Sometimes businesses don't even know they have these needs. And let me tell you, everyone has this need. They need a good core base product. They're always going to need a good core fashion that's like a little extra wow, that didn't cost them too much to make. They're going to need that fashion product that's like, hey, we are on trend and we get what's going on. And they're going to need that halo product that just says, just that little like top of the cherry, top of the sundae kind of thing. So guys, we want to equip you. We want to give you kind of the first step. Again, guys, I teach this class in intro level 14-week course. I teach it at an advanced level course in an independent study. But this is something that we have really tried to make much more tangible for what's actually happening when you go to work, and not just what happens in just kind of the step-to-step stages. We want you to be able to go to work, and we want you to understand what's going to be required of you. So if you have questions for us, send us a note. We'd love to answer your questions. If you have any additional, we actually do quite a lot of referrals. So as businesses are asking us for people who understand this kind of stuff, to people who are looking for work, we try our best to connect people to resources. So let me know. Send me a note. I've had businesses ask me for part-time designers before, sometimes full-time designers. But understanding this component is really going to set you apart from just the run-of-the-mill, I know how to make a pattern, I know how to sketch a jacket. It's so much more than that. So we want you to drive value. We want to support you as you do that. And if you have any additional questions for us, follow us on our Instagram at ACC Fashion Incubator. LinkedIn is the same one. Also Facebook at ACC Fashion Incubator. On Twitter, we're at ACC Fashion Incube. And then if you want to check out our email list, yesterday, 2 days ago, I actually announced some of the really cool things that we have coming up here. So we've got a few programs that are launching. Macy's program, Future Fashion, is launching October 7th. Our Designer in Residence program is starting October 1st. And then we're actually partnering with the City of Austin and the Embassy of Cairo, U.S. Embassy of Cairo, for a new program that's launching in December. So there's more on that. So if you have questions for us, or you want to find out more about these programs, send us an email to fashion.incubator@austincc.edu. It's fashion.incubator@austincc.edu. So that's all we've got for today, guys. Workshop Wednesday is coming to a close, and we're so happy that you were able to join us here today. All right, have a good one, guys. Take care.